Welcome to SCBWI Carolina's Book Fairies First Look. I'm your host, Mickey Bear. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing Susan Haas and her daughter, Lexi Haas, co-authors of the middle grade novel, Fooled. Susan and Lexi Haas are a mother and daughter writing team focused on disability education and advocacy. Lexi has a rare and severe form of cerebral palsy. While she can't walk or talk, she was reading by the time she was 10 months old and has an impressive memory, a keen sense of humor, and an invincible spirit. Recognizing her young daughter's gift for words, Susan began writing with Lexi to help foster independence and develop communication, but soon learned that Lexi's fresh perspective needed to be shared with others. In addition to writing together, Susan and Lexi enjoy presenting to schools and organizations around the world, helping others learn about disability from a first person narrative. Lexi has severe cerebral palsy, so she uses augmentative communication, or AugCom, to speak. She was the first person ever to present at the Library of Congress National Book Festival using AugCom. For today's presentation, she was given her questions ahead of time, and her answers have been put on a text-to-speech app. Susan and Lexi have published two books together. Lexi's memoir, The Year of the Buttered Cat, Little Brown Books for Young Readers 2024, was a Junior Library Guild Gold Standard selection. Fooled, Little Brown Books for Young Readers, October 2025, is the duo's first middle grade novel. They live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Welcome, Susan and Lexi.
Thank you, Mickey. We're so excited and humbled to be here with you today.
Well, before we get started with our questions, let me give our viewers a taste of Fooled. Magic obsessed wheelchair user Lil Evers is ready to start sixth grade. But instead of the wizarding school of her dreams, she's headed for the worst junior high in her district. Trying to make the best of it, Lil and her best friend Scoot start role playing their own school of magic in their exceptional children's EC class. But soon a chance encounter with bullies leads the whole student body to believe there's an actual school of magic in the special education room. When the EC kids' good luck charms seemingly begin to work for real, it's clear there's someone lurking who doesn't want their struggling school to improve. Can Lil let go of her fantasy world to find her voice and embrace her real school before Willow Street Middle falls victim to an evil plan? I don't want to give anything away, but I have to tell you, I was sucked into this novel from the get-go with Lil's letters. I'll leave it at that so as to not turn a teaser into a spoiler alert. How did you come up with the idea for Fooled? Or better yet, which one of you came up with the idea?
Well, as we said, Lexi has chosen some of these to answer, and so she's written an answer for this one. So we're going to let her answer that on her app here.
I think the idea actually sprouted organically from my relationship with magic. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with Harry Potter. On my 11th birthday, I was convinced I'd get my acceptance letter from Hogwarts. When it didn't come, I was confused, then sad, then angry. All the stages of grief. I'm actually still in the denial phase. I finally decided they didn't let me in because of my wheelchair. This became the backstory of our main character, Lil. The story starts, as you mentioned, with a series of increasingly frustrated and angry letters she has written to the heads of all the wizarding schools demanding her acceptance letter. So we started with this main character, Lil, and asked a bunch of what-if questions. What if Lil wound up going to a middle school that excluded her and her special education classmates from all school activities? What if Lil started her own school of magic in her special ed classroom, then the rest of the school started to think it was real magic? The story just evolved from these what-if questions.
Yeah, I can't remember which one of us originally came up with the idea because, you live with these stories, as you know, for so long. It's like, where did this start? But it's definitely started with this organic point of view of Lexi's.
If readers take away one thing from Fooled, what would you want it to be?
Well, we each had a different answer for that. Lexi, you want first? You want to go first? Yes? Sticking her tongue out means yes. So this is Lexi's takeaway.
For me, Fooled is a story about finding your voice and standing up for what's right, even if it means confronting someone powerful. I hope that message resonates with readers.
Yeah, that's a really important one. And I agree 100% with that. I also, though, want readers to understand about inclusion. We've talked a lot about kindness, and kindness is wonderful. Every year I see posts about, oh, I've invited, this kid with a disability to prom, whatnot, on social media. And, that's mostly from a very good place and it's kind, but it's not inclusion. Inclusion is not just including someone, but also assuming that they're bringing something to the table and seeing them as equal, not lesser, maybe different, but not lesser. So I'm hoping as the reader goes along with the rest of the school on this, all these adventures with these kids with disabilities, that they also learn about what they bring to the table and why inclusion is important.
Why is disability representation important in children's literature?
That's a great question. And I'm actually going to start with an answer Lexi came up with just about what she's reading and why. And then I'm going to spring off that for a minute.
I actually prefer reading books about people who are very different from me. Right now, I'm really into LGBTQ literature. Even though I don't identify as LGBTQ, I do identify as othered, someone who is often seen as an outsider. So I can relate to those stories. That's the magic of books. You start reading about people who on the surface seem very different from you, but then realize you have so much more in common. I have a t-shirt that says emotionally invested in fictional characters. That's 100% true about me and I wear that proudly. I invite non-disabled people to read books with disabled characters and see if they have that same experience. Become emotionally invested in people totally different than you.
Yeah, so just going off that, I want to say I think we have to acknowledge how difficult it has been, a year it has been for the disability community. Honestly, it's been a really difficult year for any community, as Lexi calls othered. But no matter how some people want to push marginalized communities back into the shadows, it's not possible. They are here, they're part of our communities and it's strong, it's beautiful, different is great. So let's read about it. Let's find out together, as Lexi says, that we have more in common than we have different.
Both of your books have serious underlying themes, but are also very humorous. Why?
Well, our family gets through life with humor. I mean, it's just the thing that we do, and it's gotten us through a lot of very difficult, trying times. Not everybody responds to that, but I do think we're living in a time that's really challenging to be a kid. And they need to laugh. They need to be given the opportunity to laugh as much as they can. Belly laugh, laugh out loud. And if you learn something along the way with these difficult themes, that's amazing. But have fun. Be a kid again.
How did writing Fooled, which is fiction, compare to writing The Year of the Buttered Cat, which is a memoir?
That's a great question, Lex. You want to do yours first? Yes. All right, here's Lexi's answer to that, because we both have answers to that one.
Writing The Year of the Buttered Cat was physically and emotionally draining. Mom and I had to learn how to work together as authors, figuring out each other's strengths and preferences. At the same time, we were rehashing a very painful time in our lives. I'm so glad we wrote it, but afterwards we were ready for something fun. Fooled was just that perfect fun story. It was nice to work on something that was not so emotionally loaded for us.
Yeah, The Year of the Buttered Cat was our first book. So first we're learning how to be authors and learning how to work together, and we're going through this very challenging period of our lives and putting a microscope to it. There were a lot of places that our editor would say, you got to go deeper here. And sometimes we would sit down and we would write, and then we would cry, and then we would write. And it was very therapeutic, but it was hard work. It was hard work. So, like Lexi said, we needed something fun. We needed a palate cleanser. And that's what Fooled was. This was just a really fun story to write from the beginning to the end. We love doing plot twists. It's so great to be able to kind of do what you want, take the story in the direction it wants to go, not being bound by the facts that you are more so in memoir. So yeah, it was just a really easy, fun story to write, and we had a great time with it. Yeah.
How does the mother-daughter relationship dynamic play into your writing?
Oh, in every possible way. But I will say, one thing I think readers will be able to see, both of our stories, of course, the memoir, but this one too. Will pretty much, for now, always write about the disability experience, and because it's for middle grade, there's often parents involved. So you will see our relationship come out there. In both stories, you see Lexi struggling to try to be as independent as she can possibly be. It's a very common theme in middle grade, learning to be independent, learning how far to push it. I think that for persons with disabilities, it's just a little bit more complicated and maybe even a little bit bigger. But you see the person with the disability struggling for independence, and the parent struggling to know how much independence to give. You spend a lot of their younger years basically trying to keep them alive, and learning that it's okay to let go and let them become, their own selves is a really important part of growing up, but it's not the easiest part. So I do think that that is something that we struggle with in real life, and we will see that on the pages of probably most of our stories.
Do you have other writing projects in the works?
You want to talk about this one first? Yeah, you go first.
We just finished the first draft of an urban fantasy. It features kids with disabilities and chronic illness going on this fantastical adventure all while they are inpatients at the hospital.
Yeah, this one has been fun. It's been a little bit of a challenge. Nothing happens fast for me and Lexi. For her to have a real, truly, a chance to really be included, we have to go slow. So this first draft was painful. As you know, we call it the discovery draft because you just discover what the story is about. And this one has been like that wayward teenager who just you're trying to pull them in this direction. They want to go that way, and you just have to finally let go and say, go that direction. So it'll probably be at least another year before that one gets to our editor. But yeah, we've been working on that urban fantasy, which is a new genre for us. I think we're keeping her from her now.
Well, of course, we want to keep up with your writing and your events. What is the best way for readers, educators, librarians, and families to stay up to date?
Well, we have a website, working on it still, but it's susanandlexihaas.com. Always remembering there's two A's in our last name. We both have Instagram, Susan Haas author and Lexi Haas author. And then Facebook is really Lexi's biggest presence. She's the real Lexi Haas, and join up there and for lots of posts from her.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining me for Book Fairies First Look, Susan and Lexi. And congratulations again on the release of Fooled.
Thank you so much, Mickey. It was great talking with you today.